Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for something that is equal parts hilarious, horrifying, and just completely unhinged.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right, because we are tackling the absolute chaotic energy that is the Eye of the Bedlam Bride, which is the 6th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman. And folks, if you thought the previous floors were intense, the 8th floor, the hunting grounds, it is a whole different beast.
It really is. It's fascinating because on the surface, you have this layer of absurdity. You know, you've got high-stakes card battles. You have a talking cat named Princess Donut, who is now a warlord.
Yep.
Right? And you have a dinosaur wearing a cape. But underneath that candy coating of video game tropes,
Yeah.
this deep dive is going to reveal a shift into genuine psychological horror.
Exactly. It's like come for the explosions, stay for the trauma.
Pretty much. Our mission today is to unpack how this specific narrative arc shifts the entire series from a survival game into this really deep study on obsession. We're going to look at the mechanics of the floor, the introduction of the Bedlam Bride herself, and specifically that haunting metaphor of the eye.
And we have a ton of source material to get through for this. We have the full text of the book, obviously, but we also have the Princess Posse newsletter giving us the recap, and we have the character sheets.
Which are so detailed.
They are. And what strikes me immediately is the tone check. Dinniman manages to balance things like a sex doll head rolling around eating cookies.
Which is an incredible visual.
With profound grief and madness. It's really something.
It's a delicate balance. Okay, let's set the stakes here. Where are we when this deep dive kicks off? We are coming hot off the heels of the Butcher's Masquerade on the 6th floor. And usually, you would go to the 7th floor next, right? I mean, that's how numbers work. Usually, yes. But the source material highlights a major disruption here. According to the Princess Posse newsletter, which is written by Donut herself, they completely skipped the 7th floor.
Just bypassed it entirely.
Exactly. The game broke. Prepotent, the goat crawler, did something that caused a massive failure in the system, so they were shunted directly to the 8th floor.
Which is huge for anyone listening who knows how this game works, because it means they missed out on loot, experience, rest.
Crucial rest, yeah.
Right. And let's not forget the emotional baggage they are carrying into this. The newsletter mentions the death of Signet, who was a major ally. And poor Mongo, Donut's pet dinosaur, is traumatized from the pet show.
Yeah, I believe Donut phrased it as his innocence was savagely ripped away.
Which is just so dramatic, but true. And now Carl and Donut are designated as warlords for the upcoming faction wars. But before we even get to Carl, the book opens with a prologue that totally shifts our perspective. We aren't with Carl at all. We were with Odette.
Which was a brilliant narrative choice. I mean, Odette is a former crawler turned showrunner, and we see her on the 10th floor. It introduces us to the gods mechanic, which is going to be crucial for understanding the rest of this deep dive.
Right.
Because in this universe, gods aren't these omnipotent, untouchable beings. They are summoned tools. They are pawns.
And really dangerous ones. Odette's team is trying to solve a puzzle to exit the floor, and they have to summon storm gods. But the tragedy here is visceral. You have Mordecai, who we know is Carl's manager later on, and his brother, Uzi.
Right. And to make the exit work, they have to use this thing called a dart of Ophiutorus to turn Uzi into a vessel for a god.
Which is basically a death sentence.
It is a death sentence. They're effectively killing him just to kill the god and break the puzzle.
It's brutal. Mordecai's brother sacrifices himself, exploding from the inside out, to kill the goddess Dodala so the others can escape. It's just a horrifying scene.
But it perfectly establishes the central theme of this deep dive, which is the cost of survival, the ruthlessness required. You don't just defeat the dungeon, you feed it pieces of yourself.
Wow, yeah. You feed it pieces of yourself.
And it also shows that the gods are petty. They're corporate-sponsored entities. I mean, Dodala was sponsored by a Grixist heiress who was just bored.
Well, let's clarify that for the listeners. A Grixist, that's not a term you hear every day. What exactly are we looking at there?
A Grixist is essentially a member of the galactic elite. Think of the 1% of the 1% in the wider universe. They're the ones watching the crawl for entertainment.
Right, the audience.
Exactly. Dodala's sponsor is just a bored, rich girl who wants her pet god to be cool. It trivializes the divine power. It turns a goddess into an influencer.
That is so cynical. I love it, but it makes the tragedy of Uzi so much worse. We mentioned the Dart of Ophiutorus earlier, but can you explain exactly how that mechanic works? Because it sounded really messy in the text.
It's worse than messy. It's a violation. The Ophiutorus is a mythical creature, half bull, half serpent. In Greek myth, If you burned its entrails, you could defeat the gods.
Okay.
In the dungeon, the dart forces that concept into a weapon. When Uzi gets hit with it, he becomes a vessel. He essentially becomes a biological bomb designed to trap a god.
So he didn't just die, he was hollowed out and filled with a deity he couldn't control.
Correct. And Mordecai knows this. Mordecai, who we know is this grumpy, hardened manager who has seen absolutely everything, is begging them not to do it. The desperation in that scene sets the tone for the entire book. It tells us that there are no good options left.
And Odette is the one who pushes the button, metaphorically speaking. She manipulates Choco into throwing the dart.
She does. And this is critical for understanding the manager mindset. Odette wants to survive. She wants to get to the 11th floor. She weighs Uzi's life against the group's survival and makes the trade. It's the exact same calculus Carl starts to make later in the book.
Wow. So the prologue is basically a foreshadowing of Carl's moral decay. Odette sacrifices Uzi. Carl trades the souls of the dead. It's a direct parallel.
Precisely. It's a mirror. And it's why Odette is such a fascinating, tragic figure. She isn't evil, but she certainly isn't good in the traditional sense either. She's a product of the dungeon.
Okay, let's jump back to the 8th floor mechanics because I glossed over the voodoo board, and I feel like if you're listening to this, you might be thinking it's just a game of Uno. It sounds way more complicated than that. You mentioned totems earlier.
It is incredibly complex. The voodoo board isn't just a card game. It's a geographic strategy layer overlaid on the physical world. The board has suits, spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs.
Right.
But these correspond to terrain types on the map. Swamp, city, rural, things like that.
So if you are standing in a swamp, you can only play swamp cards.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah.
Or you get significant bonuses for it. But the real kicker is how you get the cards in the first place. You don't just go to a shop and buy booster packs.
That would be too easy.
Way too easy. You have to beat a monster or a person within an inch of their life and then use a blank totem to capture them.
Like Pokemon, but with way more blood and trauma.
Exactly. And resource scarcity. Blank totems are expensive and rare. So you have to constantly choose. Do I kill this monster for the XP or do I try to capture it?
And capturing it sounds dangerous.
Very. If you try to capture it, you have to keep it alive while you perform a ritual, which leaves you completely vulnerable to other attacks.
And if you do manage to capture it, does it like you? Does it fight for you willingly?
Absolutely not. These are memory ghosts. They hate you. They're often memories of people who actively want you dead. So you are filling your deck with entities that are hostile to your very existence.
That sounds incredibly stressful. And then you have the deck masters. These are the bosses you have to play against, right?
Yes. And if you lose the card game, you suffer real-world consequences. Debuffs, physical damage, or just outright death. It forces the crawlers to split their focus. They have to be good at combat and good at this arbitrary strategy game simultaneously.
It's cognitive overload by design. And then you have the Night Gaunt encounter, where the monster just decides, nope, I'm not playing.
The Night Gaunt encounter is a perfect example of ludonarrative dissonance being weaponized by the author.
I love that phrase.
It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
The game's rules say, play cards to resolve this encounter. But the narrative says, this monster hates you personally. The narrative wins.
Right, because Carl is wearing a cloak made of Night Gaunt skin.
Exactly.
We touched on Nullians earlier in relation to the Night Gaunt, but can we define that for the listeners who maybe haven't memorized the entire universe's bestiary?
Sure. A Nullian is an alien species in this universe. They're interdimensional travelers, essentially.
Yeah.
And they have a reputation for being chaotic tourists.
Chaotic tourists, yeah.
They visit primitive planets like Earth back in the early 20th century
Yeah.
and drop off biological weapons or monsters just to see what happens.
They are cosmic trolls. That's what they are.
Effectively, yes. The Night Gaunt, which is basically the Jersey Devil in our mythology, was a pet or an experiment left behind by a Nullian in 1903. It's been breeding on Earth, hiding the Pine Barrens, becoming an urban legend.
So when Carl fights it in the game, he isn't fighting a dungeon creation at all. He's fighting an invasive species that's been living on Earth for 100 years.
Exactly. And because Carl is wearing that Night Gaunt leather cloak, which he crafted from a previous kill on an earlier floor, the Night Gaunt smells the death of its kin. That biological imperative overrides the AI's card game logic. It just attacks him in a blind rage.
It's the flip the table strategy. I respect it, honestly. But it shows that the AI is deteriorating or at least becoming more vindictive. It's not a clean system anymore.
It's definitely unraveling. But we have to talk about the humor that balances all this heavy stuff out. You mentioned the turkey boss earlier.
Oh my God, yes. Tom. Tom the Turkey, he is a bereft shaman of Milagros Galapava Rex.
Which is just a brilliant title.
It is. He's basically a magic-using turkey who worshipped a giant turkey god, but that god got killed.
Right, and because his god is dead, he's lost his way. He's wandering the hunting grounds until he meets an ogre necromancer named Sharp Elbows.
Sharp elbows.
And the source text describes their relationship in, let's say, very domestic terms.
Domestic is a very polite way to put it. The ogre calls the barn her den of pleasure, and Donut, being the absolute chaotic queen she is, immediately asks out loud, "Are you having sex with the turkeys?"
To which the ogre clarifies, it's a culinary pleasure, but the implication just hangs heavy in the air.
It's so gross, but it's so funny. It's the exact kind of humor you need to cut the tension. And amidst all this, Donut gets a new piece of gear that is honestly my absolute favorite item description in the entire book: the tiara of the inebriated dragonfly.
The lore text for items in this series is always a highlight, and this one does not disappoint. This tiara honors a dragonfly who got so drunk his wife wouldn't let him back into the nest.
So relatable.
So he just hovers outside the nest waiting for her to fall asleep so he can sneak in.
It's that specific brand of tragic comedy, and it actually gives Donut a flight mechanic, so she's zooming around the battlefield with a drunk dragonfly spirit guiding her.
Which provides some much-needed levity because, frankly, what comes next in the deep dive is incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the title character, the Bedlam Bride herself.
Yes. Shi Maria, the Screamer. She is a Reaper spider minion, technically a demigod in the game's hierarchy, and she is terrifying.
She truly is.
Yeah.
The lore states she supposedly ate her husband and is now banished, wandering the swamp looking for him. But physically, her defining feature is this fifth eye in the center of her forehead.
And we know spiders have a lot of eyes, but where are the other four in her design?
She has them scattered across her form. The description of her in the book is pure body horror. She's not just a giant spider. She's a woman, Shi Maria, who has been mutated and grafted onto a spider body.
Ugh, horrifying.
She's beautiful and repulsive simultaneously. But the fifth eye is the mystical one. It's the god's eye.
And the rule is very clear. Do not look at the eye. If she opens it, you go permanently insane or blind.
Right. The lore says that looking into it reveals the truth of the universe, which is so overwhelming it shatters a human mind.
Like Lovecraftian madness, you see the code of the Matrix and your brain just melts out your ears.
Yes. Which brings us to the actual encounter in Old Havana. Carl and Donut run into her, and you would expect a massive boss fight. But instead, they strike a deal.
Which is a huge pivot for Carl.
It is a pivotal moment for his character development.
Yeah.
He realizes he can't just punch his way through everything anymore. The enemies are too strong.
Right. Samantha, who we will definitely get to in a minute, convinces everyone that Shi Maria is just misunderstood. So Shi Maria agrees to be turned into a card. She becomes the Eye of the Bedlam Bride card, so she can hitch a ride in Carl's deck to the city of Laracos to find her missing husband.
It's a symbiotic relationship, on paper. Carl gets a ridiculously powerful card, and she gets safe transport.
Yeah.
But it's the metaphor of the eye that really matters here. In the prologue, Odette has a flashback where she explains an old crawler saying, "Never stare into the blinding eye of the Bedlam Bride."
Okay, let's really unpack this, because it's not just advice about avoiding a monster's gaze. It means something deeper.
Much deeper. It's a metaphor for obsession. Odette explains that if you focus too much on one singular goal, whether that's escaping the dungeon, getting revenge on the showrunners, or finding a lost love, you become blind to everything else.
You get tunnel vision.
Exactly. You lose your periphery, you lose your humanity, because you're only staring at that one blinding point.
And that is exactly what is happening to Carl. It's playing out in real time. He is becoming completely obsessed with breaking the dungeon.
Yeah.
He's taking insane risks, making deals with devils, and staring directly into the abyss.
Precisely. The Bedlam Bride isn't just a monster sitting in his pocket. She is a mirror of his own deteriorating mental state. He thinks he's using her power, but the narrative constantly questions whether she, or rather the obsession she represents, is actually using him.
That is so dark. And that theme of mental deterioration comes to a head, pun absolutely intended, in segment 4, the Reminiscence Hydra.
This is, in my opinion, one of the most disturbing sequences in the entire series. We are in the trailer park section of the map at this point. The floor forces the crawlers to fight a Hydra, but the heads aren't dragon heads.
No, they are faces from their past.
They are memories. It's psychological warfare.
It's horrific. For Donut, it's other cats she knows, like Sugar Cube, or her nemesis's mother. which is awful for her, but for Carl, oh man, it is so personal.
It digs incredibly deep. One head is his stepmother, Tammy Lynn. Another is his former boss. But the ones that really break him are the heads of his father and his brother, Asher.
And we didn't even know he had a brother until recently in the narrative. And the heads aren't just biting him physically, they are taunting him. Tammy Lynn is screaming, "Look what you made me do." It's pure trauma being weaponized by the system.
It ties into the malicious compliance aspect of the boss's full name. The dungeon is complying with the request to create a challenge, but it's doing so by using the rawest, most painful materials available in Carl's psyche.
I want to drill down into the mechanics of that fight because it was so confusing and chaotic when I was reading it. The Hydra has a regeneration mechanic.
It does. Classic Hydra rules.
Yeah.
If you cut off a head, 2 more grow back, unless you cauterize the stump. But on this floor, you can't just use regular fire or a torch. You have to use emotional fire.
Emotional fire, what does that even mean in practice?
It means you have to actively reject the memory. You have to deny the power that person has over you. When the Tammy Lynn head is screaming that it's all Carl's fault, Carl has to realize in that moment that her abuse wasn't his fault. He has to intellectually and emotionally reject her manipulation to create the emotional fire needed to stop the head from regrowing.
Oh my God, so it's literal therapy combat. You have to process your childhood trauma in real time while a giant snakehead is actively trying to eat you.
Yes, and that is why the Asher head is so incredibly hard for him. Because Carl doesn't reject Asher. He loves his brother. He mourns him deeply.
Right, he can't say I don't care about you because that would be a lie.
Exactly. The grief is real. So he can't cauterize the wound. He's stuck. He's taking massive damage. He's hesitating. The Hydra's winning because Carl is too human. He has too much love left in him to burn that memory.
And that is when Shi Maria steps in. I didn't expect the Bedlam Bride card to come into play like this.
Carl has the card equipped, and Shi Maria speaks directly into his mind. She doesn't step in with love or encouragement. She steps in with absolute coldness. She offers him a dark mercy.
She says, "The echo of your kin has been muffled." That line gave me absolute chills. The echo of your kin has been muffled. And then she kills the Asher head for him.
She essentially deletes the emotional connection so Carl can swing the sword without hesitation. It cements their bond. It's the exact moment Carl accepts the madness as a necessary tool.
It's like taking a painkiller that also numbs your soul.
That is a perfect analogy. He realizes that to survive the unbearable pain of his reality, he has to let the monster take the wheel for a second. And the scary part is, it feels good to him. He feels relief.
And that relief is the hook. Once you realize you can just turn off the emotional pain, why would you ever turn it back on?
Precisely. It's the first major step toward that total assimilation we see at the end of the book.
It's so heavy. Let's try to lighten the mood slightly, and I mean only slightly, with Samantha. We talked about her quest for a body, but we didn't really talk about her interactions with the other crawlers. She's kind of a menace on this floor.
She is a chaotic, neutral force of nature. She's a talking sex doll head, but she has absolutely no concept of social norms. She creates these complex Sims relationships in her head. She decides she's married to certain crawlers or that she's in a blood feud with others.
And she's just rolling around eating cookies and dropping lore. But she's actually very powerful, right? She's not just comic relief.
Not at all. She is a level 50+ mage head.
I cast Fireball. Burp.
She literally does things like that. But her arc is tragic. She wants to be a naiad again. She's driven by her own obsession with her mother and her husband. And on this floor, that leads to a massive, world-breaking conflict. Her mother turns out to be a deity connected to Sister Ainz.
Sister Ainz, the cat nun. Please explain Sister Ainz to the listeners.
Sister Ainz is a discalced Carmelite who chose the cat race for the charisma stats. You have to appreciate the min-maxing there. Discalced means without shoes or barefoot. It's an order of nuns dedicated to poverty and deep prayer.
But Ines has taken that devotion and twisted it into pure fanaticism. She's gone, as Donut puts it, wackadoodle.
Completely. She thinks the aliens running the dungeon are literal biblical demons.
And honestly, can you blame her? They come from the sky, they torment humanity, some of them have horns and red skin. To a strictly religious mind, the dungeon is the book of Revelation playing out live.
It fits her worldview perfectly. So she is trying to save souls by sending them to the nothing, which she believes is purgatory or hell. And to do this, she is controlling a giant snake deity called Madre de Aguas.
Which happens to be Samantha's mother. The family reunions in this book are wild. And she's trying to open a portal to the nothing. Describe the demon eviction for me, because the physics of it were bending my brain when I read it.
The nothing is a void beneath the texture of the world. When it tears open due to all the chaos, gravity inverts for anything inside it. So the demons who have been trapped down there fall upwards into our reality.
Falling up into the world, it looks like a reverse reign of monsters. That is such a metal image, and riding this wave of demons is Amayon.
Bionon, a demon prince. He is one of the big bads. He's not a card, he's a world-ending event. He's the Prince of Envy, and he's suave, dangerous, and incredibly bored. He enters the battlefield not to destroy indiscriminately, but to collect.
Which sets the stage for the climax in segment 6. It's a massive four-way battle royale. You have Carl and Donut trying to survive. You have the insane Sister Ainz riding her giant snake. You have the demon prince Samayon. And then Ysalte, the goddess of hopelessness, shows up just to make things worse.
It is absolute bedlam. The scale of the conflict is staggering.
Let's break down the key plays here, because this is where the gaming aspect really shines through the horror. Donut pulls off a move that is just legendary.
The minion army spell. Donut casts it right into the tornado of demon birds and bats that are swirling around. It turns a percentage of them against each other, creating just enough internal chaos to disrupt the ritual.
And Samantha. She gets thrown directly into the tornado, comes back with seaweed in her hair, and still tries to help fight Ysalte. She's surprisingly resilient for a head.
She is, but the MVP of this fight might actually be Paz.
Paz, right. He's a summoned card.
Yes, a tragic figure in his own right. In the source text, we see him literally blow himself up to decapitate the goddess Ysalte. It's a sacrificial play that directly mirrors Uzi from the prologue.
Wow, it all comes full circle. The sacrifice of a pawn to take a piece off the board. But the resolution of this massive fight, it's not a clean win at all. Carl has to negotiate to survive.
He negotiates with Amayon. Most players would try to fight or run. Carl talks. He realizes he can't win a physical fight against a Prince of Hell, so he opens a trade window.
The audacity is incredible. Hi, I know you're a Prince of Hell, but can we make a deal real quick?
And the deal is for souls. We really need to sit with the weight of that. Amayon wants souls to fuel his portal back home. Carl basically argues that the souls of the dead in the city that was just destroyed by all this conflict, are free for the taking.
He points them out like he's pointing out a buffet line. Go eat those guys, just leave us alone.
He trades thousands of souls. He pragmatically uses the mass casualties, which arguably he helped cause by bringing the fight there, as currency to buy their safety. It's a moment where we see Carl's morality isn't just gray anymore, it's pitch black.
He is doing what needs to be done to protect his team, but the cost is his own soul.
Yes. In the magical system of this world, making a deal with a demon marks you. It stains your soul permanently. Carl is now known in hell. He has associates in the demonic realms.
Great. Just what he needed going forward. More powerful entities paying attention to him. And speaking of costs, we have to talk about the ending. Segment 7, the aftermath. The twist with the golden combo. This was the moment I practically threw the book across the room.
I think every reader did. The buildup was immense. They had spent so much time collecting the Gate of the Feral Gods. They have the Alpha Carl card. The plan was to summon a version of Carl that was fully leveled, fully geared, a literal god mode version of himself.
It was supposed to be the I win button for the floor.
They activate it. The gate opens. Alpha Carl steps out, radiating power. It looks like they've won. And then, thwip.
Shi Maria.
Shi Maria, from Carl's own deck, lunges. Because she is a predator at her core. And Alpha Carl triggers her aggro. She doesn't see Carl, her ally. She sees a high-level entity invading her space. Her instinct completely overrides whatever loyalty she had.
His friendly fire, but so much worse.
It is self-sabotage. The obsession, which is Shi Maria, destroys the potential, which is Alpha Carl. It's that metaphor playing out literally. Carl's madness destroys the best version of himself.
Oh man, I didn't even catch that layer of it. The madness killed the best Carl. That is brilliant writing. And then she doesn't just go back into the deck. She times out, but she refuses to leave.
She assimilates.
Yeah.
She realizes she can't exist outside anymore. Or maybe she just prefers the host. She tattoos herself onto Carl's chest.
This is the body horror element that really got me. Carl looks down, and there's a new tattoo. The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. And it's not just ink. It moves, right?
It shifts. It's alive. He describes feeling a cold weight on his chest. A bottomless hole. He's carrying a passenger now. He stared into the eye, he used her power, and now she is a physical part of him. He's carrying the embodiment of obsession and madness on his skin right over his heart.
And physically, his body is just going through it. Earlier in the fight, he had to eat an eye to heal his friends.
Yes, he eats the eye of a doppelganger to trigger a healing effect for Lina and Lijun. The cannibalism, the living tattoos, the trading of souls, Carl's being stripped of his humanity layer by a horrific layer.
It's horrifying to watch. So, pulling back from the details, what does this all mean for the story? We've gone from a guy in boxer shorts fighting low-level goblins to a man carrying a demon bride in his chest while negotiating with hell princes.
So what here is that the dungeon is a transformation engine. It's not just killing the crawlers, it's changing them at a fundamental level. The Eye of the Bedlam Bride deep dive shows us that to defeat the system, you have to become something the system actually fears.
But in doing so, do you remain the hero?
Exactly. Marie said she wouldn't blind Carl in the way he's thinking.
And she didn't take his physical eyesight?
She took his perspective. She is shifting his focus solely to the destruction of the dungeon, blinding him to the morality of how he gets there. If the dungeon transforms you into a monster to beat it, what happens if you win? Do you just become the new dungeon?
That is the provocative thought I want to leave everyone with. Who is driving the bus now? Is Carl using the madness as a tool, or is the madness using Carl as a vehicle?
I think that's the question we're going to be asking all the way to the 18th floor. He is entering the faction wars extremely powerful, but deeply fractured.
Well, I, for one, am terrified to see what happens next. But that is all the time we have for this deep dive today. It has been a wild, dark ride.
It was a pleasure to unpack all this trauma with you.
Always. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. If you see a spider today, maybe just run away. Do not put it in your pocket.
Very sound advice.
Until next time, keep your eyes open, watch out for drunk dragonflies, and whatever you do, don't stare too long at the bride.